Hello and welcome to today's interview. I'm incredibly excited to introduce our guest and my former co host, Kylie Montigney from Scranton, Pennsylvania. Again, she's on the podcast for what, four times already now?
Probably around that point, yeah.
And
Probably.
then her first interview as host to Bailey Perry will be linked down below. You can watch that. That's how it all started. Now, Kylie, about her, she's a dynamic and multi talented individual from Pennsylvania. Has made a significant stride in the world of podcasting with female empowerment at just 14 years old. Very young. She launched her podcast, Talk of Fame podcast, which is very good. We'll link that down below as well, which has been inspiring listening since April 2021. And through her podcast, Kylie has had the opportunity to speak with women from all over the world, sharing their stories and shedding light on the importance of women supporting women. That's awesome. I like that. That's excellent. Kylie's
Thank you.
accomplishments don't stop there. She is also the founder of Empower Girls, an organization dedicated to ending gender bias and promoting inclusion in the media. Her work with Empower Girls has led to numerous initiatives and projects aimed at empowering young women and creating a more inclusive media landscape. In addition to her podcast and organization, Kylie years ago used to be a sophomore student at the PA Cyber Charter School, where she balanced her academic responsibilities with her passion for advocacy and journalism, which she does today as well. So her dedication and hard work have not gone unnoticed. She has been recognized a finalist for the 2024 Young Professionals Award. Congratulations.
Thank you.
In the Voluntary Leader of the Year category. Kylie's journey is truly inspiring, and her story is a testament to the power of perseverance and the impact one person can make. Kylie, thank you for so much for joining us on this On-Stage podcast once again. Hello
Thank
there.
you for having me. It's great to be back on here. It's been a hot minute.
I know. It's like time just went so fast. It's almost
I
like you
know.
were on yesterday. Yeah, really awesome. For those who don't know you, can you give us a little bit about yourself and what inspired you to start your podcast, Talk of Fame?
Yes, of course. So I'm Kylie. I'm from Scranton, Pennsylvania. I am currently a senior in high school currently, and currently looking for colleges right now. And I'm planning on majoring in broadcast journalism. So I'm looking for and just going through a bunch of colleges and deciding on a college in the next like few months. And about podcasting, I've been podcasting for almost about 4 years in April. And basically, I started my podcast because I have two cousins that are journalists in my local area. And basically, I was always so intrigued, inspired by the stories they told and everything they did. I was always an entertainment geek growing up and music and all of that. So I knew I wanted to do something in entertainment, but I didn't know what I wanted to do, especially. And during the pandemic was a time where I was like, I'm bored. I want to do something, as anyone would do. And all I would do was doing it was sitting on my couch, and I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm bored. I want to do something with my life. So in the middle of like probably March of 2021, so about a year into pandemic, one day I woke up and was like, I should start a podcast out of nowhere. And I was like, I was a big podcast person. I listened to a bunch of shows, but I never thought about starting my own because I was a very shy kid. So I would never think like, oh, a shy kid podcast, that's literally impossible. So I ended up thinking about it for a few days and I was like, I should just start a podcast just to like do something to keep myself busy until the pandemic's over and all of that. And then launched in April 2021. And now, 4 years later, I'm still doing it. Would never picture myself, doing as much episodes as I did, honestly. But I'm very grateful for it and everyone that, contributed along the way.
Yeah, that's interesting, Kylie, because you were 14 when you started a podcast. And I remember that your very first podcast episode was Cooper Searles, I think, was a baseball player. Am I correct?
He is a baseball podcast host, actually. You're close.
Right,
Like,
right.
and actually, as we speak, I'm actually doing another episode with him, actually. So,
Really?
it should be out, like, recording stuff very soon. So I'm very excited for that.
Yeah, that's exciting for you. Wow, but 14 is very young, and now you're like
I know.
18, and you're on your way to university, and soon, like, what is the ultimate plan for you? Like, 5-year plan? Like, do you want to have your own studio? You want to end up on like the Tonight Show? On what's your thoughts?
Like, I'm not even sure. I'm very open to really anything, to be honest. Whatever is available, I'll take it. But, the ultimate goal is to maybe work for a big news station, maybe like Today, Entertainment Tonight, Fox News, and some of those like big networks like that. But, if there's somewhere in the podcasting world that's available for me, I'll definitely do it. But, whoever is available at the time would definitely, be a good fit.
Yeah, you've actually been everywhere. I noticed if you type in Kylie Montigney podcasts, you get not only Talk of Fame podcast, you also get the new one, NEPA story as well, which stands for
Yes.
Northeast
You're actually
Pennsylvania.
the second one this week that actually mentioned it, actually, looking at my name. One of my coworkers texted
Exactly.
me the other day and was like, I looked up your name and you're everywhere. Because I don't really mention that I have a podcast at work or anything. And he looked my name up. He was like, I didn't know you were famous. I'm like, oh, do I have to explain myself now? Like, do I have to explain my work to people now?
No, I know
Which is,
everything about you,
it's
Kylie.
very
Remember you?
heartwarming when people
Yeah,
realize what I do about though,
yeah.
even though I don't really talk about it that often.
Yeah, we've known each other for almost 3 years. I know a lot about you. The fact that I have your mobile phone number too. Um, Also, what's another thing is that yeah. So I know that when you start your podcast, you had some big challenges you faced when starting. What were your concerns and what were your biggest challenges?
Yeah, I would say the biggest challenges was getting interviews. I know, like when I started, starting a podcast at 14 is very rare, and it's really kind of finding people to interview is very hard.
Hmm.
And when I started reaching out, I was a small podcast. I barely had any interviews, so people just looked my podcast up and barely seen I did interviews. I was 14, and I wasn't that good when I started. Don't get me wrong, I was not that good compared to now, but it wasn't that good. And I was like, I really was like, okay, like if people don't want to come, it's fine. It's okay. At least I took a shot at it. But it really was finding guests that were willing to sit down to a 14-year-old at the time to talk about what they did. I know, like, when I mentioned my age to them, because when I was starting out, I would mention in the email or message that I was 14 to kind of persuade people, that I was like 14 at the time. So a lot of people were hooked when they saw that I was 14 years old and everything. So I would say, like, really just finding guests that were willing to do it, no matter if they're an athlete, an actor, director, whatever they may be. It was kind of hard to kind of find that niche and hook to finding people that were willing to take the time to chat with a then 14-year-old.
Yeah. Do you think evolved as a podcast host from when you were 14 to now? What do you
Of
think has
course,
changed?
I would say this willing to probably find more time to have a conversation. I would say, like, since I was 14, it was hard for me to kind of know what to do and what to kind of familiarize with making a successful podcast. And I didn't know how to make it a podcast in a way because I didn't do any research when I started. I would say I kind of familiarized with myself in terms of like kind of having more of a conversation and getting more info out there to hook listeners is probably my top thing I learned, even though I've learned so many things throughout this 4 years, but you really is just kind of willing to have a conversation, just stepping out of our comfort zone and talk about different issues was kind of a big thing for me.
It was very difficult for me to open up to people. I noticed that as soon as I started a podcast, I'm able to speak to people now, open up a conversation. I was told to front a not a webinar, but an actual meeting in one of our classrooms, and I couldn't do it on my own, so I had one of my coworkers, Elizabeth, sit there with me because the very first time that she did it, I got some pointers from her, and I said, "Why don't I just start off as if this was a podcast?" So, hello everyone, welcome to the podcast. Everyone started laughing, but it's true. The way you are online is the way you are in real life. Do you think that you're able to go up to someone and talk to them now, but you couldn't do that when you were like 14 or 15?
Yeah, like, I mean, I was going up to people and talk to them, like, when I was 14, but, like, this time I'm kind of more at my comfort zone and going up to people and talking and not feeling as nervous, like, when I was did it because, I was self-conscious at that age and as any teenager was at that age during the pandemic, so I feel like I'm more of a kind of, introvert at this point in time than 4 years ago, and more willing to talk to people that I don't know, and actually like making conversation and learning more about them is kind of something that was different than 4 years ago.
Yeah, what made you think that your Talk of Fame podcast was actually going to last? Like, for instance, you have Cooper Searles, your first podcast, and now you have one called Breaking Limits with Sabrina Schonenberg, Inspiring Resilience Advocacy. So, from the first one to the second one, which, okay, what is this? You got episode. Oh, you don't have your episodes on here. Okay, I don't know what episode that was, but it's more than 250. I think you're over 300 now. 300 episodes.
About like I think 322 or something. It's 300 and something episodes.
So,
I barely keep track anymore.
what makes Sabrina Schonenberg any special than Nashville's Karen Kosowski's? Do you kind of do the interviews the same? How do you get your research? How do you make?
Like, I do every interview I do the same way. This, different people and topics, generally depending on the person. But Sabrina is honestly one of, the sweetest people ever. I still keep in contact with her. She's really amazing. She is someone that, has been through a lot in her life, but is willing to use her diagnosis and all of that, her disabilities, to help other people. And she is literally one tough human for everything she's been through in her life, but is using her story and courage to help other people that are going through the same thing and speaking up about it and everything, which I absolutely love. Because not a lot of people do that, and it takes very much courage to share your story and to really just get yourself out there, because you never know what people are going to say about a certain thing, especially in today's world. So it really was very courageous of her to kind of share her story and get herself
Yeah.
out there, especially in 2025 in the world we live in today.
So, what makes Talk of Fame podcast any different than Nipa's story? Like, can you differentiate the two? Like Nipa's story,
Yeah,
episode 49,
so for
Jessica
both
Ives.
Yeah, so for both stories, Nipa's story is kind of specifically just in northeastern Pennsylvania. I specifically just, set myself in Nipa just so I can just only spotlight people in northeastern Pennsylvania, their work and all of that, to make it just a separate show. So it's only keeps an eye on them and their stories. But with Talk of Fame, I basically interview everyone, like in LA, England, whatever it may be. I basically just navigate the whole entire world with people. But with Nipa's story, I just only interview people in like my region in Pennsylvania.
So, how do you find your guests? I know the first time that we spoke on your first episode, you talked about going on Instagram and like doing a direct messaging. You don't do that now. So, how do you find your guests now?
Yeah, so I still go through like social media. Typically now I find my guests on TikTok. TikTok is a really big tool for me to find guests at this point in time. But generally it's through social media. I now send emails out because it's more of a reach to like reach out to people, and they'll most likely see it rather than just going through the requests on Instagram and everything. So generally when I reach out to guests, I'll find them on social media like TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, whatever it may be, and send them an email and, follow up and all that certain things. But generally, it's kind of the same as, a few years ago, but, just a different approach.
Kylie, how do you deal with your mental health? Because now you're traveling all over. I've seen you on TV programs. I've seen you interviewed by some of the best and the famous. And how do you deal with your mental health? Because now you're at home doing whatever. You're like, oh. Now, what do you do? Like, how do you keep yourself sane from becoming insane, Kylie?
It's hard. Don't get me wrong, it's very hard. I still struggle with that on a daily. It's kind of, hard depending on the day and what I have going on and, what I have to do. But generally, when I'm kind of in those moods where I'm just like, I'm, panicky, just have no time for myself and all of that sort of thing, I usually just go to the gym. Gym is, a great way for me to kind of, let anger out and, take time for myself when I need it and let all of my anger out about something. And, I know gym is a big thing for a lot of people as well in this industry. But gym is really just, letting the anger out, taking your time for yourself, and just kind of let yourself focus on yourself, not anything else. And listen to music, podcasts, audiobooks. You're actually taking time for yourself. And I also love reading. Reading is a big thing for me too. I recently haven't been reading as much due to my schedule and stuff, but whenever I get a chance, I love to read as well. But it always, every week is different with my schedule with work and all of that stuff. So it always changes by the weekly and day. But generally, it's reading books, listening to music, and also working out as well. But there's plenty other things as well that I do that helps me when I'm having those moments of, I'm tired, I'm exhausted and everything. But, it always, you have to find a time to actually take care of yourself while also having a career as well, which is something that I'm still trying to, deal with every single day.
Do your family still encourage you from when you first started at 14 to now? Because I think there was a time when you were doing your podcast and you didn't know it was going to last because there was an issue where you were sitting there watching TV. So why don't I just, start a podcast? But then you're not sure if it was going to last. And it lasted over, what, 300 episodes or more? Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, they still encourage me. My family's a big support system in my life. They're literally the best people ever. I'm so grateful for them and everything they've been doing for me the last couple of years. They literally are so supportive in any way, more than words I can say. But they're very supportive when I'm having those moments where I'm just like, I want to give up. Like, I literally don't have the motivation to do interviews. I don't have
Hmm.
motivation to do anything. Like, that's something that I'm kind of struggling with right now is kind of having the motivation to do anything. And also, having like a social life and all of that stuff. And they're very supportive like of like me taking time for myself while also having a career. And they very much encourage me in every single way, even if I'm just like I mentally exhausted. Like they will push me and tell me to stop something,
Wow.
even though I don't want to do it. And because I'm the type of person that will push myself to do something even though I don't want to do it and everything. So, they're very much the type of people that will push me and will be willing to kind of be supportive of any decision that I make, whether it's a college I decide to go to or where I want to go, what major I want to do, and there's stuff like that. They're very supportive, and I couldn't be more thankful. And they're seriously the best people ever.
Did you have any kickback from family members and they said you're 14 years old and you're talking to people that are 20, 30 years older than you? Did they have a worry that that was sort of like a, mm, you know, what was their
I
concern? You said,
mean, not really, honestly. They were like, I mean, as long as you love what you're doing, they didn't really care. I mean, it was kind of a concern to people, like my parents specifically. But they were like, it's fine. Like, it's a podcast. It's not like anything's going to happen. It's on Zoom. Like, it's no big deal. I mean, if it was in person, then there'd be a lot more concern to that, of course. But,
mm-hmm.
they weren't really scared of it. Like, they're just like, okay, like, you do you. If it was in person, then yeah, that would be a different case scenario. But it was a
Yeah.
little bit of a concern, a little bit when I first started out.
What was your motivation for starting NEPA Story? Because I know that NEPA Story recognizes local businesses, artists, journalists, and more to showcase their work. But isn't Northeast Pennsylvania, isn't that a small little place that you're going to find all these people? Not only that, you already found 59 people that, or 57 people to interview.
Yeah, I mean, it is really a small region. It's a very small town where everyone knows everyone. And so it really is amazing because I'm a big believer in supporting local people, especially in this area. Everyone supports everyone and everyone's, is doing amazing things. And so when I started Nipa's story, I literally had the motivation to support other people and getting their business out there or story out there to get their stories out there because every story deserves to be told. And, with supporting local people, it really is such a big thing for me personally because I love supporting others. So when I started Nipa's story, that was kind of my biggest motivation. And I've been so grateful because some of my friends and everything suggested a lot of people and reached out for people for me, and a lot of people reached out to me about the podcast, which was awesome, so I wouldn't have to stress about finding guests, which is one of the worst things to do as a podcaster, is finding guests. But it really was to try to support other people and to really get their stories out there. It was kind of like the biggest motivation for me at that time.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to having people see your Talk of Fame podcast. They're going to see the evolution of your thumbnails. Who actually is a graphic designer for your thumbnails currently?
Actually, me.
You do that too?
I am actually. I'm a little graphic designer. I actually do everything for the podcast. So if you see something,
Me too.
graphic design, captions, show notes, I'm that person.
That's
If
me. I do
anyone's
the same thing
wondering,
on my.
I'm that person.
The team is me.
Yeah, the team is me and only me.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. So, like, what impact do you hope your podcast will have with listeners? Like when somebody goes to Cape Rock, from dreams to destiny, empowering change with Cape Rock. What is that episode going to do for them? What are they going to take away from it?
Yeah, so in specifically that episode, oh my gosh, I love Kay. She's a doll. But for that episode, like she's really big into empowerment. And that's something that me and her really share is empowering others. And specifically like that episode, you will hear me and Kate talk literally probably the whole episode about really empowering others, whether it's on television or on social media. We're both into really empowering others to really pursue what they want to pursue. And so, really, that episode is really just, pushing each other out of our comfort zones and really just empowering others and having others speak up about what they believe in and what they deal with on a daily basis, because we don't know what they're dealing with on a daily basis or what their family life is like or their home life or whatever. Because when we see pictures on social media, we only see the good times. We don't never see the bad times. Like we share happy moments, but we never know what's going on behind the screen or our like home life. We don't know what's going on unless people tell each other. So that really was kind of the mission behind that episode, is that like we should share our stories and help empower each other to speak up about what we deal with on a daily basis, whether it's anxiety, depression, mental health, abuse, addiction. It can be anything. There's many ways you can put it. But really, the main mission, well, for that episode and really any episode that I put out, is really sharing your story, because every story matters in every single way. So we just kind of hope to share your story to really inspire others to do the same as well, because every story deserves to be heard.
Exactly. And mental health, you said something very interesting there, Kylie. Mental health is very important. We have to be sane. We have to get our mental health in order before we can go out there and do things. Like if your mind was all mixed up or whatever, and then you suddenly had a podcast episode, you'd be sitting there going, "What am I doing?" Like sometimes I get that, but other times it's like there's also another thing is that with other guests, whatever they say, you can use that information for another guest. Say, by the way, I had such and such in my podcast, this and that, and they said this. So what you said could be true, but also you can, so you kind of use whatever podcast guest you can actually help the other one as well. Have you ever gotten
Yeah,
that as
that's
well?
true. Yeah, like that's something I think about actually on a daily basis when I film episodes. Like I just filmed two episodes today for the podcast, and really with those episodes, or whenever I film every day, like you can use any information that you have from that episode or whatever the person said for any upcoming episodes, or previous episodes you can share. With social media you can use literally anything, like clips, quotes they said or something, to share and promote your episode. And that is something that I generally do, is share it. But you can really use anything in past interviews to really talk about a certain thing on an episode that you're recording at the time.
Actually, if you really want to go viral and you want your shorts to go viral, you use something called Opus Clips, and you put a link through Opus Clips, and it's online, and it takes the episode, all the clips, and it just throws it, so it tells you, and then it tells you how many views it could get,
Mhm.
and it actually works out pretty well. I haven't used it yet,
Like
but
I used it before. It's really, really good. I totally recommend if anyone's looking to use it, or if you want to use it. It's really, really good. It's free too, I believe, too.
I
So
think
it's
so, but if
really
you want to have like more than 5 or 6, you have to pay for it, but there's several
mhm.
ones out there you can use. And to edit a podcast, I use Video Leap, and
Mm, I
I
never
have
heard of that. I have to look into it. I
I
use
do
a CapCut, so
do
it's like
you
a totally different like software.
you have your Apple computer? Is that what you use?
Yeah.
I do all my editing from my iPhone. That's it.
Really?
Yep, editing. Yep, Video Leap. Um, it's actually pretty good. If you can see, it's called Video Leap, the one in the middle, and also the one there beside is called Photo Leap, is where I do all my um, thumbnails. So it's pretty good. Um, yeah. So yeah, and also so Empower Girls. So where did you come up with the idea Empower Girls? What was the main motivation for that? What are you trying to teach them? What do you want them to do?
Yeah, so recently we renovated Empower Girls to Roots of Hope with a whole different mission and name, because we kind of wanted to transform and help more people, and also a different mission. So with Roots of Hope, really, we aim between mental health, women empowerment, literacy, and also mental health. So we literally do all these sort of things, like encouragement cards where we send it to local hospitals, nonprofits, mental health facilities, and that sort of thing, to really help those in need,
Mhm.
and also going through a rough time, to help bring encouragement to their lives, to keep them going, and to really bring some joy into people's lives. Is no matter what you're going through, you deserve to be happy and find joy even in the most difficult times. And with our organization, we really hope to help other people in need, to help them live every single day, whether it's food or books or like mentorship. Like, we help to provide those in need with all the resources they need to succeed, whether you're a child, adult, or you're like 15 years old. Like, we're willing to help anyone from here in northeastern Pennsylvania to California, Florida. We're willing to help you, like, in whatever you need, at any time in a day.
And what about the suicide awareness? If you know, mental health is very important, but you have to recognize the signs when you know someone's in trouble and need help, and you have to give them like the suicide hotline. Are you familiar with that idea where you have to look at the cues, like the social cues that you know someone wants to? Well, I can't say that word online. You've heard people say unalive yourself. You can't
Mhm.
use that other word with the S, right? Um,
Yeah, well, I'm kind of familiar with that just because I suffer with mental health problems myself. With having mental health issues, that is something that I familiarize with myself and also other people. I know there's a lot of resources out there that will help you in that terms of in that sort of term. But with that specifically, I personally know the signs of that because I personally dealt with it, and close friends of mine and family have dealt with it as well. So I kind of familiarize and do my research on that whenever I get a chance, and to help as many people as possible, like, if they're in that situation.
is it difficult for you, Kylie, to be under such stress with that mental illness of anxiety and depression? Are you taking medication for that? Like, how do you deal with that on a day-to-day basis? Because I know a few people who are dealing with that, and one was in the hospital, and they tried to unalive themselves, and it's terrible.
Like, it is hard. Don't get me wrong, it's hard. It always depends on the day for me. It wasn't as bad as it was years ago, like during the pandemic, but now I kind of have more control over it with medications and keep myself busy. I still struggle with mental health. Of course, with anxiety, depression, I still suffer with it. It will never go away. Everyone suffers with anxiety and depression in a way. But I have kind of more control over it and more willing to kind of talk about it and helping people because I've experienced it. So it would be more helpful from a different, like someone who
Mhm.
had that experience to help other people that are dealing with that exact same thing. So it's kind of, helpful in a way to help people in that situation. But, I still deal with it, even if I might not tell people or show it on social media. It really does play such a really big impact on my daily life and how I do things every single day.
Yeah, is it actually difficult to balance your time between school, your podcast, and your organization? And we're talking about three podcasts, I think. Now, I think you have three podcasts going on: Nipa
Mhm.
Story, Talk of Fame, and what's the third one called?
The Mentor Movement podcast.
Yeah. How do you do
It
it?
is also very hard. As someone who has two jobs, it is kind of very difficult to manage. With my social life and stuff I need to do on my computer and schoolwork. It is very hard. Especially as a senior in high school. This is honestly one of the most roughest years in terms of school that I've personally dealt with in a good way, not a bad way. Really, with being a senior in high school, there's a lot going on with clubs, college appliances, social life, and just different activities that you're just like, you're always staying on your toes and being busy. But really, is hard, but you really have to love what you do to make time for it. If you don't love it, then what's the point of doing it? And I kind of have enough love for it to make time for it during the day, whether it's, I got a class and I have free time for 20 minutes before I have to go to work. So I decided to edit an episode a little bit as much as I could before I go to work. So I get a little bit of an episode done. So no matter if you have some free time on your hands, you will find kind of a balance between one of those things to kind of have time to do what you do. Even if it's so difficult, no matter if I want to get things done, but I have a packed schedule that
Mhm.
day. And, it always depends on the day and my schedule, but you really have to have the time to really, find the time to do what you do every single day. No matter how many things you do, you have to find the time for it.
How's it getting Gina Davis and Hugh Jackman on your podcast idea coming along?
Nothing right now, actually. There's nothing in the books right now, to be quite honest with you. But hopefully, maybe at some point this year we'll make it through. But as of right now, really nothing, no progress has been made. But hopefully, maybe at some
Yeah.
point this year, we'll make it. We still have a lot of time to
What,
make it happen.
yeah,
But
what are
who
some of your role
knows?
models, inspirations in the field of journalism and podcasting?
Yeah, oh my gosh. So specifically my Aunt Rennie. I love you, Rennie. She is honestly my biggest role model ever. She is a journalist here in NEPA. I'm so grateful to call her my aunt. She really is my biggest inspiration. I don't tell her quite often how much I'm grateful for her, but I really am. She really is my biggest, role model and answers my questions whenever I ask, which, I'm sure she probably gets annoyed with me when I ask her so many questions or anyone in general. But, I'm so grateful for her. Never complain with the questions I have. Like, she's, always happy to answer any questions I have, which I'm so grateful to kind of have a family member that does what I personally want to do, so you can have like feel relatable and to know what it feels like to be in a certain career field, which is amazing. And I'm so grateful to have that in my life. Another one is also Laura Ingraham from
Mm.
Fox News. I do love Laura Ingraham. She really is really a badass. Sorry, people, but it's true. She really is a badass. She is someone that loves to speak the truth and also, be honest with people, no matter if it's, just like not honest or no matter if you might disagree with something, she's always very honest, which I love, and willing to speak out and be confident in what she does. And in terms of podcasting, oh my gosh, I had my brain is going blank. I'll probably say Clancy Harrison. I used to work with Clancy a year ago. I did a fellowship with her at her for her organization, the Food Dignity Movement. She is someone that I absolutely adore, and she is literally doing amazing things. And with food insecurity and helping other people and trying to address it, and I learned so much from her, and I love every episode she puts out. But she is so confident and one amazing person, and I don't have enough words to describe her because she's really another badass as well. But she really is a determined person, and I totally recommend listening to Food Dignity podcast and just checking out the work she's doing because she is amazing. So that's probably some of the shortest answers I can probably give you in terms of timing.
Well, I can recommend one of my favorites, Mikhail Peterson, who's the daughter of the world famous psychiatrist out there, Jordan Peterson. So Michaela Peterson. I want to recommend and a shout out to Harvey Brownstone interviews. He interviews celebrities like you wouldn't believe it, and this guy only lives like 30 minutes from me. Another one you can look at is Jim Masters TV, and the Jordan Harbinger show actually will help you pretty well too with all that. Um, yeah. So Kylie, how do you handle criticism and negative feedback? Someone comes up to you and say, "Oh, your podcast, oh, you're this and that," and they're negative. How do you deal with it?
I don't know, honestly. It's hard it's hard, honestly. It's very hard. I still don't know how to handle it, to be completely honest with you, Chris. It's very hard, but if it's like someone I know, then I'll be like, okay, like it's probably a joke, like it's nothing. But if it's someone online, like that's posting on like a TikTok or a YouTube video that I posted or something that hits, just because, really with people I don't know, I don't see their face. So even if it's someone I know personally, I'd be like, okay, it's a joke. I wouldn't take it seriously. Like I wouldn't care, even if they're like a friend of mine or not. I wouldn't really take it seriously. It might hurt me a little bit, but I wouldn't take it seriously. I mean, because as a podcaster, you're gonna get hate either way for putting yourself on the internet.
Hmm.
And with if it's something that it's like, oh, your podcast sucks, like you should not do podcasts anymore, then that hurts. Like as a podcaster, you really put in a lot of time and dedication to your craft. Of course, not everyone's going to like your podcast. Everyone has different interests. And that is something I had to learn in a hard way in long run, is that not everyone is going to like your podcast. No one's going to, everyone's, people are going to judge you no matter if they know you or not. And so you just have to be yourself. If they don't like you, it's fine. Not everyone's gonna like you. So that's something that I still struggle with. And it's no matter, just be yourself. If people hate on you, then that's fine. But really, just handling criticism is when people say something hateful, they have nothing better to do with their lives. So just think like, okay, like if they hate on you, that's like it sucks, but you just have to deal with it. Like it's part of life, it's part of what you do, like it's part of the industry is hate, so you just kind of have to ignore it or just turn your comments off or just not read it. It is very hard. I'm still trying to deal with it, but you just try to be tough and really just push through it.
Well, how do you deal with the say sexually explicit DMs and PMs that you receive and everyone receives? You just instantly delete them, or do you don't even bother reading them because like, who's this? What's this? Because
Like, I honestly do both. I just delete them. I'll read it. This because I'm always curious about those type of things. I'll read it, but then I won't answer. Like, I just won't
yeah.
answer. Like I'll see it. but I won't answer. This
Yeah.
because I was, God, why would I put myself in a situation like that? Like, it's just not me. Like, I don't like to put myself in that situation. So I'll read it, but then I'm like, what is going on? Like, why are you saying this? Like, you're talking to an 18-year-old, sending a message like that to
Yeah,
you.
no. Good job.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I'm not answering this. Goodbye. Like, delete. Like, it would be hilarious. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, it's hilarious. I'm flattered, but no. Like, no. I'm sorry, but no.
Yeah.
But
I
it
actually,
is entertaining, though.
I actually like how you express yourself there, Kylie, and how mature you are, and how you show people that you're older than 18 there, and you're really good with what you do. So, what advice would you give to other young people who want to start their own podcast organization? What is the one first advice that you would give them? It's very important.
Yeah, of course. So I'll probably just say be yourself, take the time you need to prepare. And every podcast episode needs to go and research, whether it's, an interview like this or just an episode where you talk about maybe true crime by yourself or just dive into maybe different investigations. I'll probably say just do your research, pick your own schedule, make time for it. Because podcasting takes a lot of time with editing, doing interviews, researching. It really takes a lot of time and dedication, and it can be exhausting. So I would just say, just take your time, care of yourself, and just do your research. Not everything is going to be perfect when you first start, but
Hmm.
just do it as much as you can. Be persistent, and just you'll grow along the way. And just be yourself. Don't let like other people define who you are based off of one thing.
Good job. That's great advice. What do you think is some of the most important lessons you've learned through your journey so far? Like, for instance, give me that answer, and then let me know what you've been doing the last 7 months since we last spoke, and how are they changing your life?
Yeah, so really, the most important thing I'll say is really taking care of yourself along the way. As someone who has a busy schedule and is always going and going, I oftentimes forget to take care of myself and to eat and to really just take care of myself personally and mentally and physically. And that is something that I oftentimes forget to do. And it can be really hard, and really finding time for yourself and really spending time with family and friends and everything is honestly very difficult as a senior. And finding that sort of schedule and finding time to do everything that you want to do is key,
Hmm.
I'll say, and really just finding the time to actually do things you want to do your work that you have to do, like school or just activities that you're doing, is something that I really learned the last few months, and really the only thing I learned, really, even though I learned so many things, that really was the main point for me. And I know for so many people I talk to as well, as taking time for yourself and also your work, because mental health is so important, and you should take care of yourself before anything. And that's something that I'm still trying to do in everything, but really just try to take time for yourself and also your work as well, but your health and the way you feel is the most important thing. You shouldn't have to force yourself to do something you don't want to do.
Exactly. I think you're right there, Kylie. And also, I've noticed that you've become like friends with many of your guests. Like with me, I've become a lot friends and still communicate after the podcast. So, but how do you stay motivated and inspired to continue your work? Like, isn't there a time when you just wanted to just walk away from it? As a, what's the point of all of this? I'm tired of it, or do you? How do you find that invigoration, that's power to keep keep continuing your work?
Oh, it's hard, and that's what I'm going through right now is the motivation. But really, the biggest thing for me, like in terms of motivation, is really helping other people. Is something that kind of really keeps me motivated, because whenever I post an episode, it makes me feel better about myself that I'm doing this. Even though I feel like lazy in recording and don't want to do questions, or I'm just exhausted and, don't have the motivation to record. Like, whenever I think about that, I'm like, I never picture a better feeling doing interviews and then wrapping up the interview than posting it. Like, that is the best feeling, to help people and to really post episodes to people to hear if they do really want to hear it. And also, helping other people and help entertaining them, whether they're on a drive home from work or doing something on their computer, working out, whatever it may be. Really just, helping people and, having something to listen to and really learning about different people is honestly my biggest motivation. And really just, meeting other people and hearing what they're all about is really just, the biggest thing for me right now.
When you reach out to guests, potential guests, do they kind of like look at you and thinking, okay, who is this little girl or 18-year-old who, like, what does she think she is? Like, do you ever get like pushback? Or do you get people, yes, I want to be on your podcast. I love it.
Not really. I mean, no one really told me anything about that, honestly. You might think that, of course, but not like they won't like express it. Like, I'm a very tough person that gets a vibe off of people, and I felt that vibe. Like, I
Mhm.
literally felt that vibe many times. But, not like through messaging or emails and all that, no. But, people can think that. That's fine. I think that too, honestly. Don't worry. I do think about that in a different way, that I don't really talk about, but it does, happen though, like, in different ways.
My dream is to actually have a studio and bring my guests to me. Like I can just sit there. Like I do. I did two or three in-person interviews at one point, and I would love to have a studio and just have people come to me. And just sit down and say, "Hey, uh, uh, do you have any feeling that you'd want to have a studio one day, where people just come to you, or you go to them, or what? What would be your idea of
Yeah,
an
of
ultimate
course.
podcast?"
Yeah, like that's a podcaster's ultimate goal, honestly, is the studio. You really, hopefully, next few years I will and have the money saved up to do it. But, right now I don't have any plans on doing it. But really, hopefully, next few years, I hope to have a studio to do in person interviews and all of that, because I love in person conversations. I think that's literally the best part, is in person conversations where you get to connect with people and all of that. I really hope to do that at some point next few years, but not right now. Just because there's a lot going on and everything. But I definitely would love to have like a studio and bring people in to do interviews, which would be amazing.
Did you have a good summer, Kylie? Did it really help you just level off and more relaxed? And then you went into Christmas, and did you have a good Christmas? How did that work for you?
Yeah, it was busy. Don't get me wrong. The holiday season and summers are always very busy. Especially my family. Christmas is a very big thing in my family. So, it's always very busy around the holidays and getting together with family and traditions and all that. And summer is, a big way for me to just kind of, relax and take time and don't have to worry about schooling and all of that, which is great. And have more time to do whatever I need to do. It was very good. It goes by very quick, which I hate, but it really is a great time to kind of relax and spend time with family and friends and make memories with them, and this don't have to think about like what you have to do.
Yeah, I see that you've changed the format of your videos. They're not like the same as they were before. What was the reason for your change?
Like, there was kind of no reason. It was kind of to help like to kind of leverage audience a little bit, to kind of get a different format and to like help attract more viewers a little bit. But there was kind of no specific, change in my format. It was kind of, to help more people to watch the videos and listen to podcasts and, help, leverage my content and do something different.
Hmm. There are some initiatives that you're working on that you think could resonate with my audience. Is there anything you want to share with us?
I would say, I think you covered it all, honestly, but I would say really just check out the Talk of Fame podcast. We're releasing episodes every week and everything. So, with we talk about different episodes like mental health, women empowerment, anxiety, autism, and so many other things. So I would say, really just dive into Talk of Fame podcast. It's your go-to podcast, everybody. Go check it out.
Yep, and we'll make sure that Talk of Fame podcast, Nipa Story, and the third one again is called, shoot, I forgot. What's the third one again?
The Mentor Movement podcast.
Yeah, send me the link for that one. We'll put them all down below. Um, Kylie, so how do you think the media can better support and represent young women such as yourself?
Yeah, so I would say this do more female roles. Like do more female representation in the media and to showcase people of color and really just represent people all over the world, whether it's on social media, television, on the news, it can be anything. Try to post more female content to motivate others is my biggest advice, and to find representation in people of color because they're not oftentimes represented. So I would say this, find representation of people of color, like astronauts, female leaders, female entertainers, CEOs. Like they're not oftentimes, represented or even talked about. So I would say just really just talk about it more, really just, discuss it because every story deserves to be heard and everyone is making a difference. So I would say this, just share their stories because no matter if it's big or small, every story deserves to be talked about in every way.
You know, what are your future goals for Talk of Fame and Empower Girls? Like, what do you want the ultimate to be?
Yeah, hopefully to grow into a nonprofit sector, hopefully for Empower Girls, hopefully nonprofit and to gain more collaboration and grants to help expand our services hopefully next year or so, and to help connect with more people and help save lives is kind of our goal. And for Talk of Fame, hopefully to make grow, release more episodes, grow and make 1,000 followers. We're almost at 400 right now. So hopefully to make 1,000 followers or subscribers and to get more episodes released and do more interviews and all of that, but nothing crazy. Maybe have a little more in person interviews maybe at some point, depending on where they're located. But same as usual, just maybe more episodes and hoping to grow bigger in the next few months.
Yes, and hopefully, when people watch this episode, it will lead to your first appearance, all the other ones, Talk of Fame, Nipa Story. People will start to follow you. You get your subscribers. We all need to help each other here, Kylie. Um, but but how do you ensure your podcast remains relevant, engaging for your audience? Like, how do you know an episode is just going to change someone's life? Because you really don't know.
Yeah, so I like to talk about any different topics every single episode, not just one specific thing. And like I love to really talk about what people have to offer in their lives, not just one specific thing like mental health. Like, okay, I'm doing mental health conversations every episode. Like that's kind of not how I roll. I love to do different conversations and just switch it up a little bit. Maybe one episode's about anxiety, one episode's about acting, one episode's about singer songwriting or touring or something. So we really mix up every episode to different conversations to really mix it up and to talk about something different, because I know with society right now things are changing to interest and music and all of that. So really switching up the content and to bring a light to a different conversation, to opinions, to really get a subject out there, even if you might not agree to it or you might think something different. It's okay to hear a different opinion even if you might not agree to it. So we really just try to enlighten a different story, to really just get a different perspective out there, because with the world we live in, it's always sometimes can be about one certain thing, and we hope to really just bring some light to the world to help make people's days, and make our world brighter and everything. So that's kind of how like I love to do things to help other people and
Of course.
bring some light into people's lives.
Of course. So definitely, you're a very wonderful person inside and out. You got to make sure that you want to have friends. You don't want to be like, get off my podcast now, or you want to be kind to them. Um, you want to ensure that that everything remains relevant. Have you ever had one of these moments where somebody has shared something with you, and you're like, oh my god, that kind of made you think once you know went away. That still makes you think of it today.
Oh, of course. Every podcaster has that moment, of course. But,
I
you know, there's a bunch of moments that I don't want to share
Yeah.
online
Mhm.
or on this conversation. That's because I respect.
Mhm.
But really, I do have these conversations. I'm sure you do as well about it. About like, oh my god, why did that person say that? Like, or why did I say that? Like, we all have those moments. But that's part of the journey as a podcast, is that like we're like, okay, I want this conversation to be over.
Mhm.
This is horrible. Like, that's part of life. Like, you
Yeah.
just kind of have to switch out the conversation and be like, okay, let's talk about this instead. Like, you're like, okay, this is done. Let's talk about something else. Like, I've been there before and done that. So it really is kind of part of podcasting, is that, but it is embarrassing. You're like in an oh my gosh moment though.
Yeah, exactly. Can you share any upcoming projects or episodes that you're excited about? Like you were saying earlier that you did another episode with Cooper Searles or something like
Yeah, so there's not too many things in the books right now.
okay.
Besides the start of the new year, things are kind of crazy with new episodes, but we're doing a new episode with Cooper Searles. We have a recording next week, which I'm so excited. It should be out in the next, few months. We have a bunch of episodes lined up and recorded that I'm editing and releasing. There's a new episode coming out next, like today or tomorrow, with Brian DiMattei. It might be, it's probably gonna be out by the time this episode's out. Which he's a host of the Food Fight podcast, and he's also from my area, which is amazing. And I'm so glad to have another, NEPA person on, and also record another person from northeastern Pennsylvania as well. So interviewing a bunch of people from my hometown, which is awesome. And there's a bunch of new episodes coming out. Not too crazy things going on right now. Things are kind of slow as in the new year, but you can expect some more episodes of Talk of Fame. We are uh, basically backlogged with episodes and interviews coming up and everything, which is amazing. I rather have tons of episodes to release and nothing, which I'm happy about. But yeah, you can expect more episodes from us, which I'm so excited about to
I I can
have you guys here.
recommend I can recommend 3 or 4 that I like to email you and I like you to get them on your podcast if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be happy to hear them.
Okay, so I'll send them to you later. Um, before we end the stream, I got 2 other questions for you. Um, the first one is what message would you like to leave with our audience today?
I would say just be yourself. Like being yourself is the most important thing. That's something that I kind of deal with today, is being myself and kind of being authentic to what I believe in, and also don't care what others say about you. Just because everyone has different opinions. If they talk bad about you, who cares? It's part of life. Like, who cares if they talk bad about you? It hurts, but who cares? Like, just cut them off. Like, trust me, it's hard, but cut them off, people. Like, just cut them off. But I really just say, just be authentic to yourself. If something's bothering you, talk about it, and never be afraid to just talk about what you believe in, because every conversation matters. If people judge and have different opinions, that's okay. Everyone has different opinions. At least talk about what you believe in.
Exactly, Kylie. That's why you're so good at what you do. Everyone, all her information will be listed down in the show notes, including her podcast links and everything. Um, and also, so where can people find you on social media and follow you?
Yeah, so you guys can follow me Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, all at official Kylie Montigney. I'm on all podcast platforms at Talk of Fame Podcast and Instagram and stuff at Talk of Fame Podcast and official Kylie Montigney. So if you guys are wanting to connect or want more information or have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'd be happy to answer them in any way.
So I like to put this episode up next week, if you don't mind. Is that too early for you?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Is there anything that you'd like me to edit out, or is everything okay?
Yeah, everything's fine. Everything's good.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Kylie, for sharing your incredible journey and insights with us today. Truly inspiring to see how much you've accomplished and the positive impact you're making, which I believe totally 100%. And we wish you all the best with Talking Fame and Empower Girls. To our listeners, thank you for tuning in. Be sure to check out Kylie's podcast, support her amazing work. Please do that. Please. I'm not begging you, I'm just saying I think
Please, guys, I'm begging you,
please,
please,
big
please.
Talk of Fame podcast. Everyone will know Kylie Montigney.
Stream, guys. I don't care what time of day or episode you're hearing. Just stream. That's all I care. Please, in advance, thank you. Actually,
Yes.
just thank you.
There's four actually, 4 or 5 I'm going to send you tonight. I love for you to get them on your podcast because that's going to have quite an impact on you. And I've had actually, they're quite relevant, and I think you're going to be pretty happy when I send them to you. So, okay, everyone, thank you for joining us on this podcast with Kylie Montigney, podcast host of Talk of Fame and Nipa Story, and she's doing really well. And you're only 18, and you're doing super well on everything you do. That's excellent. Okay, everyone, I'm gonna end the stream. See, Kylie.